it pulled something else through minimal contrast or positive contrast. And you have a emotive response to the landscape in that way, which is essentially like what the work is. And then I've tried to kind of feel like the landscape's not enough, that it needs to kind of record itself as well as my feeling, because when you're out there, it's not just you're there with the landscape. It's an entity in itself. So like I went and started doing the processing in the water of the waterfall, and then throwing the tank whilst it's processing in the river, so it's agitated by the landscape. It's kind of engraving itself into the emulsion, stripping away and adding information, adding its recording of that moment in time to the photograph. And then that kind of, they blend together to make this kind of feeling.
Would you ever consider working digitally, or?
No, like there's no feeling, because I'm a very physical person. I get attached to things. I like to hold.
Yeah.
So like I will wear a shirt or a jacket till it's literally falling apart. And you can't hold something when it's digital. It's just zeros and ones on a screen. But with an analog process, you can physically touch the negative. You can put yourself into it. Like with a lot of my works, they're riddled with fingerprints because I'm touching it. I'm working on it in the landscape, and it's having this kind of moment where we're working as like me, the landscape, and the photograph. And so it's very physical.
There's nothing sexy about a pixel.
Nothing sexy about a pixel. Nah. So yeah, and my dad bugs me every time though I go out on a trip. He's like, Anthony, you taking the digital camera? It's like, fuck no. Every time, man. Get over your head.
In this exhibition, like, what is that relationship between image and object for you? Or why turning into sculpture?
I'm seeing it in a very similar way to the way I would see a photograph.
Yeah.
It's a recording of me, the landscape, and the object. The object's just changed from a photographic negative recording the landscape to the actual stick itself. I don't know, I think sticks are like figures trapped in the landscape almost.
Okay.
And that they can kind of age with the landscape. They grow in that one spot and they become markers of time. Which is that... which is then recording its time, its presence from the landscape, and casting that in bronze is like running a print.
Yeah.
It seals it forever, and it's encapsulated in that moment in time, never to be repeated again. So, yeah, and plus it's just physically, it's a nice relationship.
Yeah, and there is that kind of privacy, I suppose, of someone in the gallery viewing the work, you know, and having that similar sort of response that you had perhaps in nature. Yeah,
that's really what I'm looking for. I want someone to feel what I felt whilst I was at these kind of locations, whether it be the same angst it took me to get there, or the kind of whole experience, kind of traveling for 3 weeks to find this one spot.
Yeah, right.
And then trying to encapsulate that in an image is very difficult with just the one image.
Yeah.
You kind of need a whole body of work to lead up to that point, and then you can physically resonate with something a lot more physical, I feel, in a sculpture than you can with just a 2D object behind glass. A Lover's Spear is a body of work I undertook travelling around Tasmania earlier this year and late last year. I went by myself and kind of wanted to find a few spots, and I couldn't. I got really blocked by a lot of fires, drought, and just the landscape is so rugged where I'm trying to go. And so kind of ended up being this almost a traumatic experience.
Right.
Maybe cut that. So it kind of ruined me in a way, and I went there trying to make these photographs, and I couldn't get any of them. So I was left trying to find something else, and I went to this place called Lover's Falls, which is on the northwest of Tasmania near Carina, and it was this tiny waterfall where these two people, a couple, used to have a house next to it, and they were miners and they were lovers, so they called the falls Lover's Falls. Yeah, I was very excited to see the falls. I'd seen the photos online, and it was just like, this is somewhere which I feel like has a really interesting energy. There's the kind of whole story behind the two lovers, and then they just abandoned it.
Yeah.
They just left it. The hut doesn't even exist. There's nothing there. It's just the waterfall is all that remains of their love. And so when I got there, it was trickling.
Yeah.
There was nothing. And I was left quite heartbroken leaving it. I drove about 3 days to get there, took multiple ferries to get there, and then there was nothing. And as I was leaving the kind of site, I found this stick sitting in the pool of the water, and it almost mimicked the waterfalls in form, and it kind of resonated very deeply with me, and it became the lover's spear.
Yeah, and I suppose it's interesting, like, that you'd, sorry to bring it back again to the trauma, but that you'd mentioned trauma, you know, that there's that kind of like aggressive connotation of the lover's spear, you know, and also the kind of inherent trauma in Tasmanian history as well, you know. So isn't it interesting that, you know, you'd go to this place and it's kind of, there's nothing there for you.
There's nothing there for me, yeah.
You know.
it did quite hurt, but like I kind of almost see a lover's spear doesn't seem so traumatic to me. It seems almost endearing, like you're speared with like the romance of the location, opposed to the kind of negative connotation of someone spearing you through the heart and leaving you broken and tattered.
As it's one of the biggest issues in photography today, can you speak to this idea of like tactility and maybe the artist's hand, or, you know, I mean, it's kind of like what we're talking about with analogue, but, you know, like, is this something which is important for you?
Definitely. I think photography should be touched in a sense. Like it needs to have an interaction with the world, and for me that has to be a physical presence.
Yeah.
We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we are looking at images non-stop, and it's a cliche to almost say now that we're doing that, but it's real, and we don't really appreciate the physical nature of what photography used to be or is still now. So the tactility and the materiality of a photographic negative and then transferring that through light onto silver gelatin paper is just, it's almost pure romance of the medium, and it's incredibly indulgent.
Yeah.
But it has that physical quality where if the paper is subject to humidity and kind of different weather changes, if it's not dry mounted to aluminium, it will curl and pull itself off the wall and become a sculptural form again, which is something I'm really interested in. But yeah, I think it's an interesting kind of conundrum which the photography world is stuck in and is going to be stuck in for a while.